Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today we are going to talk about inventory control models. Inventory is any stored resource that is used to satisfy a current or a future need. Inventory can be stored as a raw material, work in process, or finished goods. When we determine the demand for a finished good, we can then find out the demand for its components as well. For example, if the total demand of a particular brand of car is 2000, then we can know that how much, for example, tires are needed. And if we have four tires for each car and one spare tire, then at least 10,000 tires are needed. Similarly, if there are four bags, four airbags are needed for each car, then we have 8,000 airbags are needed. So we can actually find out the its components, how much demand for that components is, and how much we have to control or keep the inventory. Inventory is one of the most expensive and important assets to many companies, which could represent up to 50% of the total invested capital. We are interested to keep control of the inventory, and when we say controlling the inventory, what we mean is how much to order the inventory and when to order. It's very important because if you have stored a lot of inventory, your capital is tied up and you cannot use this capital for other purposes. On the other hand, if the inventory is low, then for any uncertain demand, there will be stockouts. And if the stockouts are there, the customers are not happy. So we need to have a balance about it. And that's what we are going to talk about, the inventory control models, which basically what we are looking at is how much to order and when to order. The learning objectives is to understand the importance of inventory control, use inventory control models to determine how much to order or produce and when to order or produce. Understand inventory models that allow quantity discounts. Understand the use of safety stock with known and unknown stockout costs. And understand the importance of ABC inventory analysis. So again, inventory is any stored resource used to satisfy a current or future demand, and inventory can be stored as raw material, work in process, or finished goods. It represents as much as 50% of invested capital at some companies. Excessive inventory levels are costly because you are tidying up your capital, which could have been used for some other purposes, and you know that time value of money is there. If your money is tied up, you cannot use it for some other purposes to make more money. So excessive inventory levels are costly. And on the other hand, insufficient inventory levels lead to stockouts, and stockouts means that unhappy customers, or sometimes even the stockout could be very costly in the sense that you cannot put even a cost on it. For example, what is the stockout cost for a life-saving drug in the hospital? If it is, there is a stockout and a person dies, So you cannot even imagine the cost or put a cost figure on such a thing. Inventory planning and control. This is a diagram which shows that you plan on what inventory to stock and how to acquire it, whether to manufacture yourself or whether to buy it, and then forecast the parts or product demand, and then the control inventory levels, which means when to order and how much to order. And then there is a feedback loop, which is saying that measurement to revise plans and forecasts. Main uses of inventory. The decoupling function. The decoupling function is we can actually by storing the inventory, in a manufacturing process within the organization, we can actually make a buffer. So if one process fails, let's say there are different processes going on. One process finish and then another process go to another process. The product is going through some certain processes. Then if there is a breakdown in one process and we have stored the inventory for that process which is interrupted, the overall production will not stop, because that we have the inventory and we will continue from the next process. And that is the decoupling function, that we can put a buffer. We can store inventory in different section of processes. The second is storing resources. We can store resources. For example, if, for example, a company has made some sub-assemblies, let's say 100 sub-assemblies are made, and it takes 100 hours of labor to produce such an assembly. Actually, what we have stored is about 10,000 labor hours. 100 assemblies multiplied by 100 hours of labor. So 100 multiplied by 100 is 10,000 hours. Labor hours are stored in inventory in sub-assemblies. In general, we can say any resource, physical or otherwise, can be stored in inventory. Irregular supply and demand. Sometimes there is irregular supply and sometimes the irregular demands are there. For example, the agricultural and seafood products are dependent on seasons. So there is an irregular supply there, but their demand may be constant over the year. Or demand for fizzy drinks. It changes with the weather. If we have, it changes according to the seasons also. Like winter season, there is less demand for fizzy drinks, and in summer season, there is more demand. So this irregularity between supply and demand can be balanced out with the use of inventory. Quantity discounts. Some companies offer discounts if we buy more products or more material, and they say that if you buy 1,000 pieces, price is, let's say, $5. If you buy 2,000 pieces, we will reduce the price to $4.8. So we can make use of this quantity discounts by storing inventory. But one has to be very careful about it, because again, you cannot store a lot of inventory. As you store more inventory, there are costs to it. Holding cost is there, and the holding cost includes the concept of time value of money, because you have tied up your capital in that. And there are other costs involved in storing inventory. For example, there is a chance of theft, or there is a chance of obsolescence, means that the thing after some times may become obsolete or become spoiled, etc. So quantity discount is, we have to find a balance between how much we have to order to take advantage of this discount. And another main use of inventory is, of course, the avoiding stockouts and shortages. We don't want the stockouts to occur, because if the stockout is there, then we will have, customer will lose the customers. And sometimes, as I said earlier, that it is even very difficult to put a price tag on the stockout, because what is the cost of stockout of a life-saving drug? So these are the main uses of inventory, that it is avoiding the stockouts and shortages. We can make use of quantity discounts, or we can smooth out this supply or demand by making use of inventory. And also we can store the resources in terms of labor hours, for example, or it can be stored in the inventory can be used as a buffer in manufacturing processes. The decoupling function is there. Inventory control decision objective is to minimize inventory costs. And as I said earlier, there are two fundamental decisions: how much to order and when to order. The components of total cost are the cost of the item itself, cost of ordering, cost of carrying or holding the inventory, cost of stockouts, and the cost of safety stock. Sometimes you have to keep the safety stock as a cushion, the additional inventory that may be held to help avoid the stockouts. So this safety stock has its own cost. Of course, we are making some margin there. So these are the components of total cost. Again, the safety stock is related to how much it becomes the holding or carrying cost, a part of holding or carrying cost. Now we'll see what are the ordering cost factors and carrying cost factors. Let's look at the left side of this table. Let's say this is the left column here, ordering cost factors, and the right is the carrying cost factors. Let's look at the ordering cost factor. It's about developing and sending purchase orders, processing and inspecting incoming inventory, bill paying, inventory inquiries, utilities, phone bills, and so on for the purchasing department, salaries and wages for purchasing department employees, supplies such as forms and papers for the purchasing department. As you can see that these ordering cost factors are more or less they are independent of how much the size of the quantity ordered, because the processing may take the same time, or even inspecting of the incoming inventory may take similar amount of time. In developing and sending purchase orders, when you are developing or sending the purchase order, whether it's 10 or whether 1,000, may take similar time or effort. Similarly, bill paying or inventory inquiries, etc. On the other hand, the carrying cost factors are related to how much the inventory and the quantity itself can, if the quantity is less, of course the carrying cost will be less. If the quantity is large, the carrying cost or holding cost will be large. What are the factors there? Cost of capital. Cost of capital is different from capital cost. Cost of capital mean that your capital is tied up and that capital has a time value of money which could be used for some other purposes. And normally we can say the cost of capital is in terms of interest rate, because this minimum, what you can do is you can put it in a bank to earn interest. So if the inventory is tied up and it is, if any item is tied up in inventory and it is a lot of capital is tied up in this inventory, then it cannot be used for some other purposes. So this is a kind of opportunity cost of capital is there. And that is minimum, we can say, is the interest on the how much we have, how much the capital is tied in. Taxes, insurance is there, spoilage. If we are holding of large inventory, the chances are of spoilage as well. The chances of theft are there. Chances of obsolescence is there, that the things may become obsolete also. For example, every 6 months or so you have a new mobile coming, a new device or new things comes, new mobiles. Let's say, giving an example of a mobile is easy because there are so many every year or every even 6 months there is a new version of that comes. So if you are keeping a lot of inventory, then there's a chance of obsolescence is there, that the things may become obsolete very quickly. Salaries and wages for warehouse employees, utilities and building costs for the warehouse, and supplies such as forms and papers for the warehouse. So these are the carrying cost factors or holding cost factors for keeping the inventory. So we can say that there's ordering cost factors are there, and then there are carrying cost factors. Now we will talk about economic order quantity.